welcome to the ninth episode of Just Drinking Problems, and this time I swapped Anna out for a much more beautiful man. This is Ben, better known as Nighthawk.
Well, I don't know if that's going to catch on with the group, but yeah.
Yeah, and you have to call me Dragon.
Right. That's what we're going to go with, Nighthawk and Dragon.
Yep.
I like it.
We're going to talk today about the American dream, or modern American dream. Is it dead? Is it still good and alive? Has it changed at all? What is the American dream? I don't even know if there's like a specific hard definition for it, but I think most people think around the same thing whenever you say American dream. And like, before I say anything, what do you think what does it mean to you?
I think that you're right. It's not a definition, if you will. You can't thumb through Webster's and let's go look this up. Although it might be in there. I've never actually looked. But as a concept, I think the concept of the American dream at its simplest breakdown was the ability to create and carve and pave your own way, right? Is to be able to climb through class systems, to, if I'm here and I start at this rung on the ladder, if you will, for that analogy, through my work, can I make it? Can I finish here?
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that's the essence of the American dream, is can I climb as far and as fast and as high as I want to without taking from anyone else, so to speak, right? So I'd say that it's a concept. That's what it means to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a note, this is a good indicator. If you see this going up and down, it's how much you're shaking the table. Oh. It's a super shitty table. It's not your fault. Everyone does it.
So less animated, right? Don't do this.
Or just not while you're touching the table. You know, I get like this too.
Put your elbows off the table like I have manners.
There's definitely no manners on this show. I watched the last episode, and I must have said the F word twice in every sentence for at least 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, fuck it.
So we have a couple episodes that are not suitable for children.
None of them. Okay. Absolutely none of them.
We'll see. Maybe we can make this suitable for children. We'll try. I can't make any promises.
Yeah, I think I might have already said fuck twice. But no, I think you're right. It's definitely a concept, an idea, a belief. It's a spirit of our nation, back from the founding fathers, and I think it's still real and alive today, because there's plenty of places around the world that it don't matter what you are, who you are, or how much you're capable of, or how smart or whatever. You could be the prettiest, smartest person ever walked the planet, and it doesn't matter because you were born here or born in this blood or whatever. Like, I went to Bahrain years back to visit some people we both know, and it was like, there's the slums, and there's where all the money is, because those people were born of this bloodline, and those people were born of this bloodline, right. And there's no crossing over.
Correct. Just like in the systems of the monarchy.
Yeah.
Right. You were born with a bloodline that kept you in this status, and then this group could go up, but maybe not. They would never be in that bloodline. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And man, there's so many rags to riches stories. I mean, you're talking about actors, sports stars, business people. I mean, even like everybody, you always hear about it. Even Obama was talking about his sort of rags to riches story. Right. That just means the American dream is real, and it's realer than ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, those are probably a lot of great examples of why I think it's still alive. I think it's a concept people are still chasing it, because you do hear so many stories of writers, musicians, name a category of employment or work where people have started from Tolkien, who wrote all the not Tolkien, but lady that wrote all the Harry Potter books.
Yes, crap. Right? What's her name? I know you're talking about though.
It'll come to me in a minute. I was not a high Harry Potter fan. The kids read them, but we're talking about a woman who was, single mom, not more than a couple nickels to rub together. No one would really buy her book, and now we have a woman that's can buy her own plane or boat or whatever she wants, right? With a little tenacity, you can jump those class systems and break through lots of them if you are doing that. I think that's the essence, the concept, right, of the American dream.
Nothing's holding you back but you.
Right. And as long as you don't take from your neighbor, there shouldn't be a limit on how far or how high you want to go. Um, you can be the Warren Buffetts of the world, right? Another rags to riches story, right? Kid grew up not a lot of money, but still a family that valued education, and he's equally. What is Warren Buffett's last worth? Somewhere in the a couple hundred million, couple hundred billion.
Billions.
Yeah, a couple hundred billion, right? That
Yeah.
on top of that, he's going to leave 95% of that fortune to charity.
That's amazing.
That's a large number.
I don't even care if, like, in your local community, people view your family as being rich or wealthy. Like, let's say both of your parents make over 100 grand, and especially around here, but in most places, it's like, hey, that's pretty good. Right. You're not hurting. You're getting whatever you wanted for Christmas. Y'all drive nice vehicles. You have a nice house. You get to participate in all the sports things and whatever you wanted when you were growing up. You'll take vacations at cool places, and you're living a very, very nice life. But compared to Warren Buffett money, they're broke as fuck.
Yeah, exactly right. If you're what is it? The comparison is the thief of joy, right? As the saying goes. Yeah, if you're going to compare yourself to like, well, everybody else is climbing the system faster than me, and even though I'm doing much better than a lot of people around me, so it's that perspective of. With this conversation at work a couple weeks back, and we were looking up some numbers. Feel free to research this, but came across an article that was because one of the interns that works for me was talking about not really having the most competitive pay as a young college graduate. To give him a little perspective, I asked him a question that says, do you know what it costs in annual income to be in the top 1% of the world? Not America, not Europe, not the globe. And he was like, no. It's like, so looked it up. And sure enough, there's a couple statistics out there, and they range in just a couple $1,000s. But the most general area is $34,400 an annual income puts you in the upper 1% of the world.
Yeah.
Right? So, and by comparison to, you're right, I may be working this job over here, and I'm not quite Warren Buffett. But if you look at the scale of 8 billion people, even the people at the lowest scale in America are still living a quality of life that far exceeds most of the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 34,000 is, you can make that here with a part-time job.
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta think, with modern technology today, our standard of living has just surpassed any imagination of somebody a century ago. If you were the richest person in the world a century ago, you're as an average dude, we're living better than they were. You know what I mean? We can get in a vehicle with AC and put on cruise control and drive 3 hours to be like in this amazing place that we paid for with a piece of plastic with like money that comes out of thin air, and we can literally whip out this magical device and see this person's face even though they're thousands of miles away. Like just everything that we do. Mm-hmm. People are getting exposed to this conversation right now. Maybe not today, maybe a month from now, maybe 2 years from now.
The internet is forever.
Yeah, and like just the way we live and the things we take for granted today, 100 years ago, being the richest person in the world would be shit compared to the average person's life right now, at least in America.
Even the Rockefellers spent most of their life without being able to walk into their cigar room and flip on a light switch. Right?
Yeah.
The JP, the Morgan family, right, spent a good chunk of their life having to still, even in their giant house, go outside to use the bathroom. Right? I mean, perspective, right? Like go back 120 years, most people still had to go down to the water or find water to go wash your clothes. Like washing clothes was a day or two, all day affair. And now you're like, just go down the hall of the laundry room and throw it in there. And when it's done, you can sit down and fold your clothes while you finish watching your show and eat some dino nuggets, right? Like it's not really that hard, right? Like physically strenuous.
Yeah, and like
we've eliminated a lot of those things, even for the lowest class. And I mean, even in the lowest class in this country, there's still a laundromat on every corner, right? They're not down at the river, right? Can you imagine if we went down to you're down at the A meet, and on every Wednesday you drove by and, all the stay-at-home mom and dads are down there banging out their laundry on the rocks, right?
Yeah, you'd think they're meth heads and they're
right
doing something crazy.
Yeah, that would be a real good example of wow, there's a big gap in the class system here. Right?
Yeah,
we don't have that.
And even more than that, I think this happened a couple of times. So like I have a really young kid, and one time he got his clothes like disgusting, so I just threw them away. They're so cheap,
right?
And I could just go on my phone real quick, boop, boop, and I'll have brand new clothes in like 2 days or less to my front door. Like that's just amazing. Can you imagine if you told somebody, even 20 years ago, like, hey, don't worry about it. Just whip out your phone and order that part or order that thing that you want. It'll be here maybe tomorrow, next day, whatever. Like that's insane.
Yeah, just think about your grandparents, right? that wasn't that long ago, but what if your grandparents saw you just throw dirty clothes away, right? That to them that's still a foreign concept, right? You worked for that money, you had to acquire that, you had to buy the goods, somebody had to make the goods. A lot went into that, and times can become scarce. Maybe you shouldn't do that, but you're like, I'm click of the button. No, I don't want to deal with this right now. That's a level of abundance that I don't really think we have completely enjoyed or understand. Maybe we enjoyed it too much. I don't know.
We take it for granted because it's so normal. That's our standard of living.
Right, which I guess is part of the topic of conversation today is what is the standard of living? Is the American dream a standard of living? Is it still just an idea so that you can move through a standard of living? I'm not really sure I have the answer for some of that. But our standard of living is, after having traveled a good chunk of the world, even for the lowest of the class in America, it's still relatively high.
Yeah. You make a good point about traveling around, and most people don't. Most people, I don't think, other than their exposure to the internet, really get outside of their city or their state.
Oh yeah.
Much less like on the other side of the country or other countries. I mean, man, you just go down to Mexico.
Oh.
Or actually don't go down to Mexico.
Yeah, I would not advise what I did as a young Marine in California to just, hop. It's a different time. I would not just jump the border to Mexico right now currently. It's
because any state in this country, you're far more safer. And you have access to public resources that you just don't in most of the planet.
Our public safety nets are very vast at both the federal and the state level nationwide here. I think people are a little misled about how really deep and vast they are and what is actually available out there, how much money we do in fact spend. Because you can drive through Baton Rouge, New Orleans, San Diego, Los Angeles, right, Seattle, and you can very easily just drive around and see that you get this feeling that things aren't like, well, nothing's being done, it's not being fixed, it's not working, maybe we need more money, but we throw lots of time, money, and resources at these problems. They're still problems. I don't know if...
Well, that's because everything that we create in whatever government, whether it's local or state or federal, no matter what, humans are involved at every step, and humans are imperfect. So no matter what, and no matter how good we make it, how much we improve, or whatever we change, it's never going to be perfect. So the idea of a utopia, which I think a lot of people, a lot of lefties, they see this idea of a utopia, and that's where like, this is wrong, this is evil, this is bad. We're never going to achieve that because we are human. We'll never be perfect. I don't think we should stop trying to improve the foxhole. We should never stop trying to make things better. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But we're never going to reach that epitome of this idea that they have in their head, which is why we're talking about how good we have it here. We're so spoiled because we don't look around at everyone else and like, oh my God, can you imagine living like that?
Yeah, some real perspective.
I'm not a millionaire.
Right.
I'm definitely not a billionaire, but we have it so good that we can live like kings and queens and talk shit about how oppressed we are or how bad we have it. When if you just hop on a boat, go over to Cuba or Haiti or something like that, and you're like, I want to leave right now.
Yeah.
That's how terrible it would be.
Right.
if you even were allowed to leave. You know, like, it's just things are so bad in some places, and we have it so freaking good, and we never stop to really just look around and be like, damn, this is awesome.
It's real easy to sit back and complain when everything's comfortable and you don't have a lot of strife. It's really easy to make fun of that because there's an act out against it because there's no repercussion. Life is still good. I don't, so I can say all this stuff is horrible while I do it from my $1,000 iPhone. So I think that the perspective part that you're talking about that you gain through seeing with your own eyes, just objective truth, that's how other people live. That's what they're trying to get out of. You don't need to be fed a lot of other information if you can see it for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, again, we live in an age where I can click on a feed and really see at the ground level how it's happening in those other places, right? To see how they're really, like, large parts of the world still without running water, right? And we here in most places are installing sprinkler systems and have unlimited running water in houses. And even in the bad parts of town, they have hot water, cold water. We have governmental standards that keeps most of their water clean and safe for drinking. It doesn't exist in lots of parts of the world.
Yeah.
So the perspective, like you were talking about, is I think that's critical. Is to, like, okay, everybody else is. We're already starting. If you're born in America or you're lucky enough to get here, right, legally, you're already so far on the rung in the ladder, getting ready for the next generation. You're already winning.
Yep, absolutely.
Even if you make $16 an hour, you don't understand how much you're already winning.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't blame them though, for the most part, because I mean I was there at one point in time. I would hear things on the news or on the radio or just conversations with people. So you start to think certain things. You're like, how did that politician get away with that? Mm-hmm. That's clearly illegal. That's bullshit.
Right.
And like, I still complain now, and I reserve forever my right to talk shit. You know, like it's the pastime, really.
Yeah.
More like a hobby for me. But I was 18 and I went to Iraq for my first time, and because of the job that I had, I got to fly around that entire country. I got to see everything. I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
Some of these people, like, even if they did speak English and I could stop and talk to them, like, the idea of them using shampoo, conditioner, or deodorant, or toothpaste, like, the idea of that, they'd be like, what do you mean? You know, we have what our goats provide. You know, we have what we trade with our neighbors that are way over there if they're alive today. Right. You know, like, the idea, like, I'm not a woman, and man, I would even be nervous being a woman in that country and being in the United States Armed Forces, because the idea of the way they treat women there, the way they have feminists over there, they're like, fuck men, I don't need a man. Like, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Yeah, it's easy to be an activist about some things when you are an activist in a place where everyone lets you be, right? You're not jailed, at least not yet, for your opinion. You can say, I don't like this group of, or this sex of people. I don't like this color of people. But there are countries all over the world where those concepts and those ideas, you can't think them. Not only can you not say them, but you can't think them. You sure can't practice them. And that, all of those things are little micro events and decisions that do create a quality of life.
Yep.
Right? Back to what we're talking about. As America, they create a quality of life. And when you can say those things and think those things and do those things, you can move your, as the progressives would say, you can progress your culture, forward into the next generation, whatever you're going to do. A lot of places don't have that. It's just not a thing, right? Like you talked about in Iraq, they didn't, there's some concepts they never even heard of. Like they sure didn't see it on TV.
Yeah.
Right.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, exactly. There's one in that group. There's one cell phone rocking on a 2G network, right? It's a little Nokia that can stop bullets, right? Those little things are just indestructible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't. it is all about, I think, it just perspective. And so many people lack that perspective. Just
Absolutely.
to sit back and be like, you really do. I get it. Like working at Starbucks is terrible. You know, you hate living with your roommate. All the, you know, you feel like life's crapping all over you, but you have a bank account, you have clothes, you have an education. Most places you can roam the street unimpeded. They're not really kind of looking from the outside in at their own situation, right? You're kind of the old Winnie the Pooh, you know, character Eeyore, right? The cloud always following him around, right? Eeyore was, you know, everything's always raining, it's always pissing on me, right? That type of approach, you know, life is terrible, it's so bad, I'll never get out. It's that mindset, I think, that keeps them from having the right perspective. And at the same time, it's the same mindset that will probably keep them from climbing out of the next class, right? It's not going to get better. I'm never going to do that. You're right. The mathematical, chances of you being the next Warren Buffett, probably not that great. But because of the wealth in this country, to say that any grown man and woman that's educated can't be a millionaire, that's just not even remotely, the case nowadays.
New ones every single day of the year.
If you listen to some of the math that it's a couple YouTube shows like the Money Guy show, and of course Dave Ramsey, they use those statistics a lot, and they'll throw out there and show you how many millionaires in the country are first generation and self-made. Those statistics are in the 60s and 70 percentile. People this generation or their current generation, right? The late boomers, the Xers, or whatever, that no one in their family was, but a millionaire status that just moved their children and them out of that class rung, at least for another 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah, I mean, well, if they don't fuck it up, but no, you're exactly right. So I believe the American dream is stronger than it's ever been, but the perception of some people that are wrapped up thinking the world revolves around them and they're so delusional with reality, they would say that it's dead. And what I mean by that, and one thing, I got a couple things in my head. So one, like I was talking about earlier, talking shit about the government, like, yeah, that's really fun, but try to do that in China, you get disappeared. You know what I mean? Even a billionaire in China brought up the idea of changing some economic structures that took away power from the state, from the Communist Party there, right. And he disappeared for a while. That was a big, I think a year ago, that was a big story.
Went on vacation.
I'm sure. He had a great time.
Yeah.
But like here, you don't have to worry about that.
Not yet, no.
not yet, you're right. We need to hold on to these freedoms and not get delusional. But one of the greatest examples of why I believe in the American dream is Elon Musk, man. He was born example. In South Africa?
Yeah.
And then one day he's like, you know what? I'm not sure what, but I'm going to change the freaking world. And he ended up moving to Canada to go to school, because Canada, and the reason he went to Canada is because it's easier to get into the United States from Canada than anywhere else.
Right.
He was going to school there. He said, fuck school. He went to America. He ended up starting this little company with a buddy. And he had this wonderful idea, because he's a big out-of-the-box thinker. And he's like, man, the phone book's awesome. Everyone uses the phone book. It's so useful. I should put it on the internet. Mm-hmm. So he did. Boom. Like $300 million.
Right.
You know, like you went from nobody on a different continent, a different hemisphere, to come over here to try and hopefully gamble that you would get into this country so you can take a part in that American dream, and you did something amazing. And if that's all he ever did, that would be an amazing story. But clearly we all know Elon Musk's name because he's the richest man in the world, and he's done some incredible thing like land rockets. NASA doesn't land rockets. He made the electric car fucking cool. Yeah. And started this revolution in this huge industry that everybody who was smart and had money told him, that's stupid. You will land on your ass. You can't make money. It's too big. It's owned by all these other companies. It's been in business for 100 years. Like, he just keeps breaking the mold on everything. And he's not even born in this country. That's the American dream.
We have a lot of examples of people like Elon Musk that are living that immigration to America dream. And I mean, a case in point, a good example of my generation would be Arnold Schwarzenegger. right? Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, right, came from talk about rags to riches, right? The poor son of a police officer that used to break into the gym so he could lift like concrete dumbbells. Came here, worked construction, had the dream. And we all know the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger's rise to prominence in the bodybuilding. I mean, you could almost say that he kind of designed the industry as well, right? The early days of him and Franco and all those guys, they really did write the book, so to speak. And Arnold wrote a book as well on bodybuilding, the movie deals, the governorship, right? The marrying into the Kennedy family, the prominent, all this from a poor immigrant guy that wanted to move to the country that would let him do it.
Still making movies.
Still making movies, still making money, still invested in stuff, right? And that's just on the immigrant side. We have the other stories of hundreds we could sit here for hours and talk about people that have rags to riches just in the U.S. alone.
And if they would have went to any other country, that would have happened?
Yeah. For all its problems, and not to go off on that tangent, that'd be another show, but there's a reason people are still trying to come here by even unsafe means.
Yep.
Because that is their best chance. That is their children's best chance. And compared to any other country on the planet.
Yeah, and I agree. Like that, the social safety net that you were talking about earlier. If I'm going to be dirt poor, and maybe not even be able to feed my children over here in this country, if I could just get in this country, I could be in the same economic standpoint and struggling just to keep them fed, but I'll be safe.
Yeah,
that right there is life changing. But we're so pampered and so spoiled that we don't even think about things like safety, not to extreme like they do. It's just we don't know because we are that privileged.
Yeah, you can't see it from sitting inside your gold castle. You're like, it all looks fine. I don't know what you're. Yeah, everything's
they just
great.
like to complain a lot.
Yeah, this is what's going on. So I wonder if maybe there's a different American ideal or dream, whatever we're going to call that, for another half of the country, and we're talking about it from our perspective, but there's arguably a divide currently in our culture for a lot of different other reasons. But I wonder if there's two large portions of the divide now have two very different ideas about what they see going forward as the American dream, right? What does that look like for my neighbor? What does that look like for me? And can they coexist? I don't know if that's the case. And in talking about this, that I think the last couple years prior to this kind of showed us that there needs to be a big change in what that really means, and more ownership and independence of driving your life,
responsibility.
Because as any moment in time, you've seen it. We can turn off jobs, right? We can break you into essential and non-essential candidates, right? Those of y'all that get to work and those of y'all that can't work. There's some initial numbers that came out, and just in 2020 alone, we put 8 million new families back down into poverty that had managed to climb out, right? And we're sitting on that cusp of middle class, which means a couple different things to different people, but the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce define middle class based on median and where you fall in median income. We just sent all those people backwards.
Yep.
Like just with a switch of a button.
Man, that's such a good point. And that was a really good example of how good we got it, because the whole COVID reaction to our general society, like that to me, that's like, yeah, that's how a lot of these other countries function every day. It was just so terrible here because we're so used to being so privileged and free.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, like we talk about America and freedom, bald eagles and shit, and it's awesome. But, like, I mean, even if you look at maybe our closest ally, Britain, right?
Yep.
there's a lot of things that I enjoy, and I'm sure there's tons of people that would not enjoy it at all or have any interest in it. But I really like going hunting. I really like going to the shooting range. I like owning a firearm. You cannot do that in Britain.
Correct.
In Britain, if I want to break in your house tonight, I'll go do that. And if you try to fight me, if you throw a punch at me, we're both going to jail if the cops are called because you assaulted me, even though I broke into your house. You know what I mean? Let's pretend we were strangers, right?
They don't have the freedom of their
self-defense.
Castle.
Yeah, and
like their castle, their private property is not a concept,
right? So the normal, everyday American liberties and freedoms, and what sometimes we like to call rights, those can just be. You don't have it no more. Whoop, you don't have that no more either. You know, like, and COVID was the first real example, at least in my lifetime for sure, that you can just watch those things disappear, and almost like overnight.
Mm-hmm. And in a lot of places, we let them happen. A lot of places, they fall back. It's very, I don't know if we want to talk about, like I said, into what that means for the rights and inalienable rights, and where they came from, but part of the American dream, if you was the right to pursue your own happiness.
Yeah.
That pursuit should not be allowed to be stifled by your neighbor or by the government, right? That does that, right? You want to start your own business, right? If you don't steal from your neighbor, there should be nothing stopping you from trying to make that business a profitable business and whether you're making the next electric car or you're just providing your neighbors a trash pickup service, anything, you shouldn't be stopped from trying to do that. And we did that overnight. I say we as the general public and the government, we just turned that off.
Yep.
Right. And
scary shit.
It was very convenient for a lot of people because most people that supported it, they didn't have to worry about that because they had, I found it very interesting to work with a lot of individuals that were still getting paid on the 1st and the 15th of the month. They had very, very strong opinions about shutting it down and no, it's no big deal. But they didn't have to worry about money. Whereas the single mom who's waitresses during the day while their kids are at school to put stuff together was a non-essential worker, and now she was sent back down the economic ladder for what?
And dependent on the government just to eat a meal. That's scary as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely what perspective, like you were talking about before. Wherever you're sitting, that picture may look different to you. But I do have a little collection of YouTube shorts here. Just to kind of see, like,
okay,
we have our opinions and what it means to us, and we've seen different things, but there's a lot of other people out there that have opinions as well, and I'd like to pull up a couple of them and just see what they say.
You can learn from everybody else.
Yep, absolutely. So this first one here, this guy.
Over this opinion, I'm going to say, if you're local, I'm okay losing followers over this opinion. I'm going to say it anyway. Having 2.1 kids, a dog, and a medium-sized house in suburbia is not the American dream. It's just not. It never was the American dream. Think about it. Does that really make you want to get up at 5 a.m. and beat the sun to the punch every day? Does that really inspire you? Does it give you goosebumps? No, it's not a dream. It's just a societal norm. It's an average, if you will. And it's something that we are all pressured into doing. It's this middle class trap. You know what is the American dream? Entrepreneurship, being your own man, being a business owner, and having the freedom that comes with that is the American dream. This country was built on capitalism. Our modern school system does not produce free thinkers. It produces laborers. And so if you woke up in your midlife wondering what the hell happened, I'm right there with you, man. I understand. Join me and make the transition from employee to entrepreneur.
Okay, I mean he has kind of a point there, but
lots to unpack there. He's got a great point, and then but he introduces it with, I guess what I would say is a misleading point.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't disagree with his last part of that. His little catchy sign in the back, employee to entrepreneur. It is. I think he
has an agenda.
He's advertising, right?
Yeah.
So this is the whole point of this, right? There's an agenda to a lot of people's statements. I'm trying to get you to understand something, right? I want you to, think the way I think, or I want you to hear my point of view, or a lot of there's an agenda to it, or a topic. But I mean, you go into a meeting with an agenda. Here's today what I'd like to cover. Okay,
that's true.
Doesn't imply malice if you have an agenda.
Basically what I mean is, like, obviously he has this whole little thing he's like advertising, trying to get you to, like, hey, come over here, let me teach you how to be an entrepreneur. And I agree. I really, like, I have a little bit of an entrepreneur spirit. Maybe that's why I started this show. But when he started out talking trash, he was using statistics like 2.1 kids and a dog and a house in suburbia. Like, that's not the American, like, why not? I think that's a great American dream. Depending on where you came from, even if you just want to copy your parents, because that's how you grew up, that is an amazing American dream. And I think a lot of people get like some shit crossed in their head where they're like, I want a Ferrari, I want a mansion over here, and another mansion over here. I want a private jet fly, none of that coach shit on Spirit. I want a model type wife. I want to have enough money to go on vacation at least 4 times a year. I want to buy all these name brand stuff.
Yes.
Like, that's not a real dream. That's a fantasy. And that it should not be considered the same thing. If you're able to accomplish that, hey, great. It's all materialistic bullshit. But for the people that are just like, man, I just want a home that's safe with a family. If I didn't have one, I would want one, right? But actually having one now, I don't want anything else. I want my kids to be happy and my wife to be happy. I want us to be able to enjoy each other's lives together. Like, that's a perfect American dream. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And what he's describing is the much prior to your time, but you're familiar with probably seeing the old shows and stuff. He's describing the old 50s and 60s model of America, right? Is the post World War II America that expanded out into the suburbs, came home with millions of people who could buy homes on the GI Bill, who could then go to work in office jobs and even some more industrialized jobs. They could now afford things like a car that would take them to a grocery store that we didn't have before, because prior to that, that was not a thing. There are these pictures of that picturesque 50s life, right? We moved into suburbia. Everyone's safe. You sit out in your front yard and you drink a cocktail with your neighbor and watch the kids play and ride their bicycles. And we expanded the country like that for decades on just that dream. That's what people wanted. They're like, oh, look, it's a safe. I got my own yard. I've made it in life, right? One person goes to work. Mom, we could afford the entire household on one income, or the kids both went to school, right? Mom stayed at home, ran the errands, did that stuff. We had that breadwinner lifestyle. That's the thing he's kind of, but that generation built a massive amount of stuff for this country that we currently live on, right? And so that's quintessential picture 50s life. Yeah, that's changed. And in the 2000s and the 2010s, is that what we call it? I think that's morphing. But as you pointed out, that's absolutely right. Some people just want a very nice house, good stable money, a very loving family to raise the next generation of thinkers and doers in relative freedom and peace.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good dream to me.
Yeah.
Right? At least one that you can lay your head on a pillow at night and be like, my wife and I work hard, the kids are doing okay, the roof doesn't leak. As we pointed out, there's a large chunk of the world that they're worried about if they're going to survive the night. Are they going to eat tomorrow? There's no thoughts of their kids doing something different or achieving something better. They're trying to survive day to day kind of thing. So the second part is spot on. I think he's trying to talk about we need to change that, but I don't think the previous stream is bad at the same time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know if that, I guess for lack of better words, he is kind of shitting on the way it was. Like the American dream that made him possible, right? Or created all of this. I think that's worth recognizing. That was great, but it's changing. So you're right. I think his agenda spins that the wrong way. Like, this was good for a time, but we need to do something different. If anything, like we talked about, is the last couple of years showed us you need to be independent of we both have careers where the wrong things said or posted could end our income, could cut our income stream off.
Yep.
Right?
There goes your health insurance. There goes your retirement. There goes your biweekly paycheck. Like
Right.
you are fucked. You
Yeah.
might lose your house. You might lose your truck. You might whatever. Your
Does
life
that sound
is
very
ruined.
free to you?
Absolutely not. So yeah, I agree. The whole entrepreneur spirit thing, and even if you're making just a hobby business, you know, you're like just trying to sell some stuff on the side, or maybe you build fences on the side, or
Absolutely.
cut grass, or whatever. Like I agree with him on that part too. It's a personal thing, you know. It's like anybody's dream isn't wrong, but I do want to draw a line between dream and fantasy. You know, like I can dream that I want to be an NBA star. I'll never be an NBA star. You know what I mean? That's a fantasy. That's not a real dream. Dreams should have some level of realistic accomplishment.
They have to be achievable.
Yeah, exactly. Like
with the skill sets that I possess or can learn.
Yeah.
Right. Am I the type of person that like, so you could probably learn to like shoot really well, but you probably won't learn a lot of the other mechanics to be an NBA star. But you could own an NBA team.
That's true.
Right.
Was it Mark whoever?
Yeah. Mark, you'd be next Mark Cuban, right?
Yeah.
So you can own one.
Mm-hmm.
They might teach you how to play a little bit better if you had your own team, right? You could have your own coaching. You know, hey, come to the house and teach me how to play ball. So, yeah, when you're telling kids, it's great if you have a goal, but goals need to be actionable. You need what is step 1 through whatever to get to your dream, and it could be as big as you want. It may be 100 steps, it may be 3, whatever number it is or how big your goal is. But yeah, it has to be something that you can march towards.
Yeah,
and that's why I think the part is that it's not what you think it is. You know, when you're starting off with a bat, he's telling me I'm wrong. Because we already have a population problem as it is. So absolutely part of the American dream is if we want America to still be around, you need to get up to that 2.1 or higher number of kids, which is a whole nother discussion. But yeah, we have population decline as it is anyway. So we need a bigger house because we need to start having your boy Elon Musk, puts his money where his mouth is with kid 7.
Yeah, I mean, don't ask Elon to name your kids because that's going to come out.
He's better at naming the cars, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Way better than that. Even better at naming the rockets, right? But he's 100% correct. If you want more scientists, you want more doctors, you want more nurses, you want more engineers, you got to make more people. If you want to solve all these complex problems that we think we're going to run into, you need more thinkers, you need more doers. And the way to do that is not with less people, it's with a whole lot more people.
Yep.
But
more people with more mind, more power.
But the part of the American dream, right? I want to have a farm with 12 kids and help me, be the next Yellowstone, or I want to have, 3 kids and we're the next Microsoft. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? If you have an actionable dream, right? Like I got a lot of, crazy fantasies too, but let's be real, right? Those are ridiculous fantasies. But a lot of the dreams, those are actionable. That will probably happen. You got to just what's the Nike commercial? You got to just do
it. Yeah. But I would say that's a very you're using very sound judgment, and it's okay to fantasize. It's fun. It's nice. But I almost think dreaming's required because you'll never get to that. Yeah. You won't just. I fell into this amazing career, making all this money, living this lifestyle. Yeah. Like you have.
Most
to
people
dream.
don't stumble across that and be like, "Hey, you want this $1 million job?" Oh no. Yeah. Most people don't have that, right?
Yeah. So dreaming is required, and it's okay if you change that dream, or if you attempt that dream, it doesn't work out. Like you at least learned one way not to get there. Like the American dream isn't like this is a sentence. It's unchangeable, it's like that's not scripture, It's different for everybody, and we have the freedom to chase it. I think that's the essence of it to me. But we definitely talked about this.
Yeah, we gave him a lot of his video did its job because we talked a lot about his TikTok-y.
For sure. Let's see what's up next. I'm gonna go to this next one. I'm gonna scroll down and back up to make sure it's at the beginning of the clip.
If your local gun range. I was telling him last time, dude. Owning a home is selfish, dude. I don't know why people do that.
that whole American dream spill, look, homes were made for financial institutions. They're made for banks. Don't let your realtor friends sell you on that idea that the American dream is owning a home. Owning a home is selfish, okay? You can only house one person. You can spend the same money and do better things with it. Look, it is dead money, all right? And it makes no sense owning a home. Number one, you have to stay in the same property for 30 plus years. We are mobile, abundant people, okay? Unhappiness is when you're stagnant, okay? Nobody wants to be stagnant. It is stupid owning a home. You could put that same money into like an Airbnb rental business and make 10 times as much as you can make. And guess what? You could be mobile. What's better than that? I'm telling you, do not ever, and I mean ever, own a single family residence. It is a stupid and terrible decision. Bang.
All right. First off, I know you got some shit to say, but
yeah, I
this
thought
dude's getting out of
these,
Ferrari.
These are definitely, this is in order from worse to better.
Yeah.
Okay, so you nailed it because that one fired me.
But this dude has to be 100% right because he's getting out of a fancy car and it says cash flow right above the big old titties he has. So he must be correct. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's good.
So I've sat in one Ferrari in my life. Sat in it, right? Because I couldn't drive it.
That's a Lamborghini, actually.
It is a Lamborghini, right? But all the same. I do know a little something about size and stature. He's very uncomfortable trying to drive his Lambo.
I believe it.
Yeah. So, yeah. These kinds of videos. And what's funny is, I mean, I don't know. This is probably not real time, but he had a couple likes, no dislikes, a couple comments kind of thing. But this is this type of internet, TikTok-y financial advice that is just horrible. First of all, yeah, you're right. This is definitely one of those things that, like, I'm going to push all of the buttons to. So let's just start off for one is owning a home is selfish. Owning property is selfish, right? So that rings in my bell up here like, oh, that sounds just like the Economic Forum. You will own nothing and be happy. No, I want to own an asset. I want to own, not owning property and land. That's 100% the American dream because that's not possible in a lot of places. Especially the common classes. There's countries in this world where if you are the common class, you can't own land. That's a thing, right? What he means is he owns a lot of houses, but his LLC owns those homes. So he owns nothing, but the business owns a house. So he has those. He has lots of houses. Probably has a house with a big garage to park this goddamn car. But he doesn't own it, right? It's not in his name. No different than my business credit card, right? It's not my credit card. It's the business credit card. That's what he means. But he's not telling anybody that. He just straight up, this is that normal internet TikTok, just bad. This is just bad advice all the way around. Like owning physical assets and then giving them to the next generation is how the next generation starts a little higher on the rung of the ladder of life. If we're going to use that analogy, right? If you don't give them any physical assets, they're starting at the same point that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I think it's a parental obligation to make sure your kids started at a higher rung than you did. Like if you didn't, I think I don't care how good a person you raise, but if your kids you aren't leaving them, they're not starting higher in life than you were, you fucked up, right? That's part of your job, right? Is to get them off to the best start possible. That doesn't do it. If they don't own anything, I'm not saying that you got to have 3 mansions, but would mom and dad leave me? They're not going to. What are they going to leave me? An apartment in San Ysidro somewhere? Like
your kids are your legacy.
Yeah, and so are your assets that you acquired, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be businesses or physical assets like homes and land and stuff like that. Those are things that help the next generation start chasing their dream, right? So this is all
bullshit.
Yeah, bad advice. Just because you can't find a partner that wants to have your children, and so you're stuck in your Lamborghini with no car seats, like, I'm sorry, but that's just all around bad financial advice. It has nothing to do with the American dream, just not, you're going to own some Airbnbs, that's owning a house. Maybe owning a home is selfish, but I'm going to own a home and sell it out at 4 times the market rate so a family can vacation. Okay.
I totally agree. And his shirt does say cash flow, so I mean, clearly that dude's all about the cash flow.
Yeah, what is his business? I don't
Best
know.
Chris Thomas. I don't know. I've never seen the guy before, but I just thought that was kind of Wow. Do you ever just feel like you're the type of person that tends to go against the grain, ask why at every rule, or you question social norms? Well, you might just be a rebel. If that's the case, check out rebelshirts.com. Man, I love owning a home.
Right.
I love it, dude. It's so nice. And that's the best thing I ever accomplished in life. That's okay. Because I know when I come home, I'm not like, oh, my neighbor parked in my spot again. Fuck.
Right.
Or, oh man, the people on the other side of the wall, they're making too much noise. Like, I don't have to deal with nobody else. This is my little space on the entire galaxy. This is me, and this is the people I love the most inside this little box. And we live our lives here. And it's so nice just to have that. And sure, if I have a big house, well, I want bigger. Once I have that house, I'll get used to it, and I want even bigger. And that's perfectly fine. But it's never a bad idea to own and maintain and be responsible for what is yours. I think that does a lot for you personally, and especially for a relationship, because we could go down this road as much as you want. What is it, like 40-some% of marriages end? And while that's complicated, I mean, you could be like, well, that's why I don't want to own a home, because then she'll take half of it. Or I don't want to have kids because, then I have to pay child support. Like, you can plan on your life being a destructive force around you, but I don't think there's any quality in that. If
you think that way, you're going to manifest it.
Absolutely.
You're going to make it happen.
Yeah. For me, I know that anything's possible, but there's nothing more enjoyable in my life than being like, I'm going to my house because that's where home is.
Right.
That's where my kids are. Right. That's where my wife is. This is my life right here. And hey, I don't have a Lamborghini, so maybe I'm the dumbass, but
I guarantee you, based on tire pitch and placement, I know my Jeep would fit right over the top of that Lamborghini.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so I know that it would crawl right over the hood of that. No more
What's that?
Yeah, so I'm fine with that. But the numbers don't even support that, right? So I'm an engineer at heart. The wealth management numbers for America doesn't say that, because it shows that the biggest wealth building tool for the lower and middle class of America is their home. It says the number one killer of American wealth is car payments. We know that for a fact. Is the number one thing keeping people from the next economic rung, right? From getting to middle class to upper class to wealthy, is car payments. That data has been put out everywhere, from financial managers on the East Coast, the West Coast, everybody. We know that car payments are the number one. And after that, it's credit cards. But homes aren't in there. Homes are the number one asset builder of the middle class. So to give them advice opposite to that makes zero sense to me.
Yep, absolutely. And the best thing for children to become successful is a 2-parent household.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. The numbers absolutely support
that. All around, that white picket fence dream he's shitting on, that is like the best thing you could possibly do for all the good aspects in your life.
For all ethnic groups in the United States of America in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right, had unprecedented, all ethnic groups, right, every color and creed of American, had unprecedented economic growth in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It wasn't until the late 60s of the civil rights movement that moved one group down. That's a whole nother show to talk about that. But we know for a fact that all economic classes in America started to thrive during those periods. Why? Because we were owning homes, we were building new companies and jobs, we had even higher education routes. We were growing. There's a lot of other reasons for that. We were one of the last countries with money. Most of the rest of the world had been blown up. But that all being true, we still had that growth. And a lot of that was done because Americans were buying assets, physical assets that produced them wealth.
Yep, absolutely.
And real estate is one of those. I'm not saying you can't own 10, 12, 20. You can buy your house, you can buy your neighbor's house, rent it out, do whatever. But owning a home has the intangibles that you're talking about, right? How you feel. I'm going to come in and I want to sit at my dinner room table with my wife and my kids, and how was your day? Have a nice meal. The roof doesn't leak, right? This is my solitude, my castle, because those are all the intangibles that go with it. And then the tangibles are the fact that you physically own an asset.
Yeah. Well, it does make financial sense. And I think that's that's the base. That's where you want to get to start all those crazy dreams. We're like, I'm good right here. I have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to dream to chase that company, or I want to try and get to that upper level management within the company I work for, or do the other different things. And great, go for it, do it. But I don't trust that guy at all.
No, that was when he got out. I was like, and part of the reason I don't trust him, right, is you got a Lamborghini. You don't dress like you drive a Lambo. Really? That you got all that, like shorts, and we know you didn't leave the gym, obviously, right? So that's a dead giveaway, right? But I don't know. Everything about that video, man. I'd like to bump into that guy at Walmart because he probably shops there.
But his shirt says cash flow, so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's really good at revolving the cash flow of his business. It was all around terrible, and that's just an awful color for a Lamborghini anyway. So it's
that's true, man. Why it's so like
all the beautiful Lambos are beautiful cars. Arguably, even if you're not a car guy, Lambos are pretty. They make way better colors than
practically all of them.
Than a white, yeah.
I'd go pure black vehicle, any type. I think is
of course
gorgeous.
Right. Yeah, I would say I'm a red Ferrari guy. Lambo, I don't know, probably black, maybe.
I really like that Ford blue color.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get that like a Gladiator or a supercar or anything, like I really like that blue.
You don't like the new Ford gold and rainbow thing they got going on?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
No, okay.
No, like I was so pissed because I love my F-150.
Right, yeah, you don't Ford blue, right? Traditional blue oval kind of.
You know how many people they pissed off with that? Because F-150, and has been for a long time, most popular sold truck. And then they throw that in front of their face like, come on, man. I mean, Bud Light, Cheez-Its, Target, Ford.
We were laughing at the house the other night, and Aiden had mentioned, he's like, you might be able to get a Ford Raptor real cheap.
That's true.
And I'm like, so they wouldn't just repaint it, Dad. I was like, that's a good idea. I like the way you think. Out of the box.
That's a smart kid.
Right.
Well, that's a man now. Right. What is he? Oh, anyway, personal information.
Yeah, off the subject.
Yeah.
So we unanimously delete this guy, give him a thumbs down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feedback with him, but
that's definite. X him out.
He is not living the American dream.
Absolutely not.
I would never.
The American dream, a land of opportunity, freedom, and prosperity. But did you know that the United States doesn't have the highest quality of life? In fact, it's not even in the top 10. Countries like Finland, Sweden, and Denmark consistently rank higher in quality of life indexes, with better healthcare, education, and work-life balance. One reason for this is the high levels of pollution and traffic congestion in many American cities. Did you know that the average American spends over 40 hours a year stuck in traffic? That's almost 2 full days. And while the US spends more on healthcare than any other country, it still has a lower life expectancy than many developed nations. Also, the cost of healthcare and prescription medication can be prohibitively expensive for many Americans. Americans are known for their work ethic, but did you know that they work longer hours and take fewer vacations than workers in many other countries? This can lead to high levels of stress and burnout. And please don't forget to check the comments to watch the full video.
Okay. We don't have to spend as much time on each one of these. We'll be here for 17 hours.
We're probably not going to make it through your list. I don't know. We might,
Yeah, we'll speed through it, but clearly we know there's issues with our nation.
He didn't tell me anything that, I don't statistically know. But again, like in these short videos, they throw out that misleading. You're right. Americans do work more hours than most people, and we take way less vacations. But we also build way more than everybody else does too. So that's great.
The rest of the world profits off America.
Yeah. So
in every way.
Right. Yeah. Somebody's got to build all this stuff.
Yeah.
And innovate and have the engineers and the companies. And you're right. You're on vacation. You're absolutely right. You have a better quality of leisure. Right.
And I don't compare America to any other country because no other country can even come close to matching us.
That's a very common thing nowadays, right? We always compare. Why isn't America like everybody else? Not supposed to be. Never was supposed to be. We're not supposed to be like Australia. We're not supposed to be like Britain.
We were an experiment to set ourselves apart from everything that already was.
Right. Was to have one and then everyone else.
Yeah. And the experiment worked out to be pretty damn successful in the last couple hundred years.
Do you think it's because nobody wants to be different anymore? They just want to fit in?
I really think it's that fantasy of utopia. I'm like, well, look at them and them and them and them. They all have free health care, and look at them and them. They have free university or college tuition, and like, look at all these people. They rank higher on the happiness scale. Who the fuck takes that? I don't know. I think that's a bunch of.
They have one. Yeah,
I've never taken any of these.
They never showed up at my front door to ask me, how happy are you, Ben?
I've never voted on any of the stuff.
Right.
But like, sure, I'm not saying that these people don't take holiday. Like, that's a European thing. Like, everyone every year goes out and does all these things, and that's super cool. And if it works for them, I'm happy. I'm sure they're happy when they're on holiday. But I don't want to trade the freedoms and liberties that I have for their lifestyle. And maybe I'm biased because I grew up here and this is my culture and this is what I know. But even visiting some of those places and learning more about them and talking to people that grew up there and lived there, that's their culture and values, America every time. Every time. I'm not saying we're perfect, because we're not. We never will be perfect. But man, they do not compare at all.
No, they don't. And we could unpack at length why is the healthcare the way it is, right? Maybe we'll do a part 2 of your, kind of universal healthcare show. We could talk about some of the numbers that really represent that. But the things that they're trying to measure and they're talking about, that Americans don't have the best quality of life anymore, have never visited a small town in Nebraska. They have never been to Missoula, Montana. They have never seen a small town, crawfish festival, right? And they've never seen a Cajun Christmas of boats. And so to say that we don't have a better quality of life, and you're right, we have all those problems. Everybody's got problems.
You know who they're talking about? The people in the big metropolitan areas that hate themselves and hate their lives and hate everybody around them.
Right. The
That's not America.
urban rural divide, right?
Yeah.
That's not. It's a morphed version of Think of America, right? It kind of became a mutant, if you will, so to speak. And the people that are like, this is not the way I want to live, but I don't know. Yeah, this is. I don't know. They're not measuring intangibles because they're hard to measure. To say that we don't have the best quality of life, I don't agree. I can't. Again, been all over the world. I love my quality of life. Right? I'm not, and you're right. Part of that, it's because I have a better, more privileged life, that you will, than some of my neighbors. But I'm not supposed to say I'm sorry for that.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. And whether you drop down a class or went up 3 classes, like, it doesn't matter. It's this based off decisions you made. It's your responsibility. It's your life, and the government's not responsible for that. No, your neighbor's not responsible for that. And I think that is a privilege that people look at as a burden. Yeah. And that's the American dream.
In Denmark, if you're like, you know what, I like all this, but I don't want to be part of this anymore, you can't unhook from that system, right? We're almost a 50% tax rate. So you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy some land in Austria and build myself an off-grid cabin. That's not a thing. Like, you're, here, if you're like, I'm done with this rat race, you can sell your home, pack everything you have into a small U-Haul, and move your kids to eastern Montana and reinvent your entire life and build a cabin. Yep. That is not possible in most parts of the world. That's not even a thing. Like, people don't conceptually think of that. You're like, oh, I'm not happy right now. I can change my circumstances.
Yep.
It's not possible in a lot of places.
That's freedom.
Yeah. Independence at the least. Right?
Yeah, I agree. All right,
made it through 3. This is 4. We're not doing very good here.
No, I didn't even say, like, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it.
Right.
We do. Let's say American dream under threat? Oh, no.
Middle-class families in America are feeling the financial strain of rising costs and stagnant incomes. The hallmark of the American dream, which once included the ability to take vacations, own multiple vehicles, and enjoy leisure and entertainment, is now out of reach for many. Middle-class families in America are feeling...
Yeah, so, hey, pay attention to me. I'm giving you bad news.
But the sad part is the bad news is 100% accurate.
That's true. So
there's nothing misleading in there. That is all true. It is... let's take a road trip down to the dealership and tell me how much that new Ford cost.
Yeah. Well, that's you voted for that. Obviously, we wanted that, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what we asked for.
Right. Exactly. So car ownership, right? Like we're getting to the point where it's unachievable for the middle class guy, right? That our parents, right? Dad worked hard every 10 years. My dad saved up. He'd go down to the dealership, could easily afford a new Chevy Ford truck. It wasn't the fanciest one on the lot, but it ran great. It was new, right? No problem. That is not a thing anymore. I have friends that are talking about their next vehicle purchase is $100,000 truck.
It's insane, dude.
And I find myself like, typically when people tell me things, I'm like, oh, I try to find a way to be excited for them, but I can't help. I'm like, that just doesn't sound like $100,000.
You try trading them a kidney.
Yeah. I mean, like, do you know what I could do with $100,000? I mean, for home ownership, right? You can't say home ownership's out of reach when cars cost $100,000. You can't afford it. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Probably could, but
it's absolutely insane. But that's what we're asking for because those fools are going down there and paying for it. If we stop paying $100,000, they won't cost $100,000.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, if you vote with your dollar, right, which seems to be one of the only effective ways left to do it.
I do.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that I'm smart or I'm not better than anybody and anything, but I hate the idea of paying a note and paying that interest. And like you said earlier, like that's the worst thing in our society, or economically, at least right now. I have 3 cars.
Yeah.
The fact that I just made that sentence, you'd be like, oh, well, fuck you, you're rich. No, dude. Right. I just buy cheap vehicles and then I keep them for a long time.
Yeah, you've seen my driveway. Like I got project Jeeps and all kinds of, I have really nice tools, but I don't, like, I don't want to break ratchets and stuff. But that's, you got to maintain those
things. I have 3 vehicles that are at least 10 years or older. And you know what? They give me from point A to point B. They can pull, haul, pick up, load people, everything that your brand new $100,000 truck can do.
Yeah.
But it don't cost half my life to drive that thing, you know? It's just ridiculous.
It absolutely is. And I think the last part of this video, we'll move on to another one, but it is unpacking, especially the last 2 or 3 years where we saw those costs go up. Mm-hmm. And then we saw so many people forced out of economic activity. Like they were told you cannot participate. Oh, I know you need to feed your family, but I told you can't go to work. So we already set them back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, if they were my age, are still kind of recovering from 2008. Then this one, they may be permanently, without drastic changes in the future, they may be permanently stalled at like their quality of life. It may not increase. It may increase for their children, but you go 20 years of earning potential and you had a lot of rocky stuff and setbacks and money left retirement and stuff like that. It takes a while to rebuild that. And there will be a lot of people that don't recover from.
And it was out of their control
from that.
100%.
Yeah, it was taken from them.
Yeah.
Right. So how they recover from that or happens, I guess we're just all going to have to sit around and wait and see what happens because we can't predict that.
Yeah.
But
I agree. Like I said, we're definitely not perfect.
At least this one was all correct, even though it was bad news.
Yep, good point. This is kind of interesting.
Let's have a look at a ship. This textbook analyzes the American dream from a German perspective. I wanted to read you a particularly powerful paragraph. One thing that it continually asks students to do is to analyze the persistence of the myth of the American dream, especially in light of the fact that, quote, that for many Americans there is no more chance of ever making it. The examples of eminent Americans from the past and the recent present help to explain the major function of the American dream. It is a national myth which connects the present to the past and which also contains a promise for the future. This myth is that it is within the scope of every individual to uplift himself or herself, to move up the social and economic ladder, and partake in the endless opportunities. It's in quotes. The function of the American dream may then be summarized as follows. It establishes role models for the ordinary man or woman and thus upholds current social beliefs and structures. In other words, pretending like the American dream exists functions to keep things the way that they are.
All right, screw you, girl. The American dream exists, and you're saying we don't have opportunities. There are people like you that can literally get on a website for free and then sell some nudie pics and make way more than anybody who works their ass off. Like, that's an opportunity.
Yeah, we could probably have an entire show on the raunchiness of that. But two things here. One, I don't like the idea of being lectured by a supposed textbook from a country that tried to take over the world.
Yeah.
Murdered 8 million people. And then after we were done with that, we spent hundreds of billions of dollars rebuilding them back into another empire and functional nation. So
check yourself.
We did that for them, right?
For sure.
So most of your future opinions, I hold very little stock in. And the second thing is to say that it's a myth helps facilitate to people, you're right, they still believe in these old myths. That's the same people that say, well, you're religious? That's just an old myth. You don't need to believe in the old things and the old ways. Those are all myths. They're not really true, right? If you can get that into enough heads of people that are 5, 6, and 7 years old, sure. When they're 20, they'll think they're myths.
Yeah.
So instead of saying the American dream and the ideals, right, because it's always something to fight and strive for, they're like, oh, it's a myth. It'll never happen. I don't, and I sure as hell don't want to be lectured by them of all people, right?
Yeah. I also think that plays a lot into the victimhood. Like, here's our collection of labels. Here, you can at least have 4 of these. And because of you're in those groups, you can't do this, or that. And it's not your fault. It's okay. You're oppressed, or it's because you're born that way. But the system's against you. I'm sorry. Like, you're fucked.
Yeah,
but it's not true.
What was
at
the bottom
all.
right before she paused? There was like, you're oppressive people at the top. You can't get past. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. In America, like everywhere else in the world, there's a 1%. And do the 1% make large scale decisions in large corporatized manners? 100%. That exists everywhere on the planet. In America, you have the independence to try and remove yourself as much as possible from that system and be not dependent on it.
You could become the 1%.
You also
there was this guy in his garage. He started selling books. Right? There's plenty of bookstores. Mm-hmm. Why would he even start that? I don't know. But he started selling books. And, he got pretty good at selling books, right? And then eventually, let's fast forward in time. Now, Jeff Bezos owns the biggest e-commerce store on the planet and makes way too many billions to possibly fucking spend, even when he gets divorced and his wife becomes just abundantly stupid.
She became the richest woman in the world overnight because of the settlement. And he was like, I'll make that back tomorrow.
Exactly. He went from a nobody running a business, a crappy little business that most people would be like, bro, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, nobody's going to buy that.
At one point, he was the richest man in the world.
Right.
If he's not still, like him and Elon Musk are going back and forth there for a couple of years. But
well, it's kind of hard to measure that because some of the companies hold most of their assets.
True.
Right. So it's hard to measure like their real value, right? Because
the point is he's that rich.
Right. He's so rich, you just don't care at measuring it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we have opportunities.
I would never ever.
So you're saying I need a nice house, car, and wife to reach the American dream? Uh-huh. And you know that a lot of California homes cost $1 million and a nice car is worth around $50,000. Yep. So with my average $50,000 job, it's going to take me 21 years to make $1,050,000. Mm-hmm. And this is assuming I don't pay any taxes and buy anything at all. Like, food. Sounds about right. You can do it. So you're saying
you can do it. All right, I got one thing to say. Move out of California.
We could probably get this. This is so. But they're getting the generation they want, right? They want the Gen Zers to be like, yeah, it's not achievable.
Yeah, stupid.
That's what he got.
Yeah, you ready to move on?
That video just makes me irritated. Yeah,
exactly. I actually kind of like this guy a little bit.
I would never.
To me, the modern day American dream, go out there in your 20s, forget about buying dumb shit, forget about going to the club, become the best at what you do. You make coffee, you do sales, you play in the NBA, become undeniable at it, and people will pay you what you're worth. Take that money, dump that back into real estate. Buy things that will give you cash flow. Put your money into local businesses. That's the American dream. To me, the modern day...
and you kind of said like pretty much all that a little earlier. That dude knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Yes. Right.
He don't have a Lambo, and his shirt don't say cash flow.
Right.
But he knows.
And look at his enthusiasm.
Yep.
Right. So his enthusiasm is almost. Are you familiar with the former SEAL David Goggins, real popular internet star? Big
No,
been
I
on
don't
the
know
been on
the
the
name.
yeah he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
I'm sure I recognize his face.
David Goggins is pretty popular as being a very extreme kind of individual, but he has a saying is become a savage, right? Go get it, go chase it, right? Like go get your thing. Like you want this, you're right. That as the kid pointed out, you're right. Southern California and Northern California homes cost $1 million. My former neighborhood in Fallbrook, California, right? The operational cost of running that house every month was almost $5,000 in rent, electric, whatever. And it was not a very, I mean, it was a nice little middle class suburban house, right? 1,900 square feet, $5,000 a month, right? Yeah, they're expensive. Move. Right? This is the part we talked about in the last couple of years. If that taught us anything, grab your stuff and move. Right? We got 49 other states to choose from. Pick one.
The majority of them, if you could keep that same amount of income, you will live 3 times better, if not more.
Right. The American dream is still alive and well. You might have to sacrifice. You might be a little uncomfortable. And you might have to work. But to sit around and be like, I can't afford nothing here in San Diego, but I love it here. Get your shit and get in the car and move. Wyoming's calling. West Virginia's got some booming new businesses coming up, right? North Carolina is the new bastion of tech, undoubtedly on the East Coast. Move.
Yeah.
Right?
Texas, Florida,
yeah.
Tennessee.
Can we make Houston any bigger?
Blew up because California during that COVID time, they lost 2 million people just up and left. Yeah. And then California's like, oh, wait, we're still going to charge you taxes for the time you were here, even though you don't live here anymore. Like, California's crazy, man. If you want to live in America, and I'm absolutely hating on California, go anywhere else and live a normal American lifestyle, and you will be happier. It will be easier, and you'll be able to do more in your life. Like, that's insane. $1 million house.
Yeah.
I've already mentioned it. I live in Louisiana. If you had $1 million house in Louisiana, dude, that is a mansion. That's a big mansion.
Absolutely. The most expensive real estate in Louisiana, don't ask me why, I know it's an obscure fact, but I looked it up. The most expensive house for a while in the state of Louisiana was $14 million. It was in Baton Rouge, owned by a former dentist and his wife. But $14 million was the most expensive home in the state of Louisiana, and a population of roughly 4 million. That's a kind of average home in La Jolla, right? Or Santa Barbara, right? So that, to put it in perspective, and when we were coming out here, like I tell you, we lived in California for a decade. The next 20 years of growth and expansion and economic opportunity in the Gulf Coast, I personally believe, from what I've read, learned, talked to, and met individuals, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be wonderful. Yes, it's home for me. And yes, I wanted my family to have that, but I think the opportunities here are going to be great. And it was worth moving to be like, hey, look, we're going to be, like, there's going to be companies coming here. There's going to be better real estate opportunities. There's great, it's business friendly for most part, for most of them, right? You're starting a business here is way easier than starting one in California.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's the excitement that I get from him. He's excited about it. Go get it. Go chase it. Go get up in the morning with a purpose, a why, whatever you want to call it, and go chase your dream. If you fail, it's probably on you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, it's right over there. All you have to do is go get it. It's like you were here, and you're like, I can have a better life over there.
Yes.
So you picked up your shit and you went over there to have a better life. You didn't go, yeah, well, it's their fault and it's their fault and it's not my fault. Look at the situation. Look at the economy. Look at the politics. Like, I can't do nothing.
Yeah.
You did something.
Yeah, woe is me, right?
Yeah.
Everybody get their shit and get in the cars. We're moving.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to. I know it sucks, but we're going to. Sorry. Right? Yep. It's better.
Peace, bitch.
Yeah.
You got
You got it. I like his excitement. If anything, it's like, be hungry. Chase it. Be a savage. Go get your your meal. Whatever.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I think I did watch that episode on the JRE. Right. I don't remember names. But next one?
Yeah, but at least a positive video.
Yeah, I definitely like him a lot. And this guy's a little slower, but
I think he has some wisdom. There's been a lot of people feeling that they are a victim, and I don't really fall for that. whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, and if you decide you want to make something, I think in this country, there is a pathway to do that. If you really surround yourself with the right people and don't keep in your head that you can't do it. If you think you can, I believe you can. I think there has been
that for real.
Yeah. He's not, quite as like boisterous as the other guy, but he's not wrong. Like you just got to get up in the morning and, as you pointed out, right? Stop blaming everybody else. You're like, oh, well, I grew up this way and I didn't have that and I didn't have this and somebody else did this too. Shut up.
Yeah.
Right? Stop whining. Right? Grab your big boy boots and put them on and go get yours. Right? Even more so if you have a family. Right? Because that's your job. Right? That's your kids and your wife are counting on you. You're like, go, shut up. Go. What is the? I saw a shirt the other day. It says, "Nobody cares. Work harder." Right, and that's the American dream in an essence. Nobody cares. Work harder. As long as you're not stopping your neighbor from getting his, all bets are off.
Absolutely.
So yeah, he's not wrong. Go get it. Get off the goddamn couch and go get it.
Yep, that's the message that we should be sending the people. For sure.
Who's this guy?
I don't know if
When's the last time? Is the American dream dying? Because a recent study shows that 25% of millennials have given up on buying a home. And I totally understand why, because it's expensive. But here's the thing, if you talk to anyone with a nice property, almost all of them didn't start there. They started off on a cheaper property, which they used as a stepping stone. So the reality is, it just requires you start in an area that isn't your dream, so that later you can move up into the area that is. Is the American dream?
Yeah. Duh. I feel like that's common sense.
Well, so this is a good point that I remember recently having a conversation about. He makes a good point about that 25% of millennials have given up because we currently have two generations of people, both millennials and Gen Zers, that have grown up living this, my opinion, they kind of want to live this lifestyle that their parents already have, right? Like we have a generation of young kids that are like, well, I want to go get pedicure and nails done and eat sushi with mom, like this, bourgeoisie-esque, middle class and Alexis kind of stuff. So they're leaving out the part of when mom and dad were in their 20s. How did mom and dad in their 50s get to that point of being able to do that, right? How did mom and dad have 3 nights a week eat out money? Well, because when they were 23, they didn't have that, right? This younger generation's, well, I'm 23, but I want that. They don't want to put in just to point out, 25% of them gave up. Yep. So we got 25% of the country that just quit. Oh, I'm never going to have that asset. Okay, really? That's what you're going to teach to your kids?
And they won't.
Is to just quit.
They won't if they give up. They absolutely won't.
Yeah, I can't own a home. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm not going to try and move. Okay, because I don't want to live in, with the rednecks in Mississippi, but I could buy a big old house for my family if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So 25% of them are quitters. That's what we got to work with.
Yeah.
So
that's what I heard. I really, and I resonate with that because, I mean, if anyone's watched more than one episode of the show, like, okay, most people have not seen it or heard of the show, but if anyone's watched more than one episode of the show, like, they've heard me talk and give my opinions and say a bunch of shit. I'm not the smartest person ever. Like, I can barely pronounce things correctly, much less spell them. I don't have some type of impressive PhD in anything. Like, I'm not out here. I'm an expert, and I can just do anything and go any place. And I'm not being interviewed by famous people. Like, I'm just the normal average Joe. There's nothing exceptional about me, except the fact that I don't just accept no, right? So I was 2 months after I graduated high school. I was actually 17. And I'm not like tooting my own horn here or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is why I feel and believe the way that I do. Because after that, I went to basic training, AIT. 2 months after I got AIT, I went on a deployment. I came back from that deployment. I was 19 years old. I saved up all my lowly money because, like, you're private. You're not making much.
Make a lot.
I just didn't spend anything, right? And then I bought an $89,000 house and I bought a $5,000 car. I was 19 years old. I had a paid off car and it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in a crappy neighborhood, but it was mine, right? And I'm sure there's plenty of other routes you can take to get to that point. But if I was more concerned with, hey, I need to have that name brand on my shirt, you know, or I need to have those type of shoes, or I need to have, I'm not driving that Honda, you know, I only drive these types of cars, you know, or I spend my money here. Like, I didn't care what anybody else thought. I don't care if they thought my shitty car was embarrassing or my crappy tiny house. Like, that's what I had. That's what I did. That's what I spent my money on. That's where I got started. And then it wasn't but 3 years later, I bought a 3-bedroom house, 2-bath car, and I rented out that first one. You know what I mean? Like, you can start at the very bottom and build up.
Right.
That's in every aspect of life.
It sounds to me like the 25% he's talking about, they don't want to do that. Right. Especially if they've given up. Right. And then it seems like a low percentage, you know, maybe if we're talking about some other things, but when 25% of a group, an age group of individuals says they don't want to participate in something, that's not a good thing. Right? I can't imagine that's going to be, I mean, maybe it's better for the rest of us. That means there's more properties out there for us to be able to invest in and buy. Okay, maybe, you know.
That's the entrepreneur in you looking.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the entrepreneur's like, all right, fine. If the rest of y'all don't want to compete, that's, you know, that means I only got to compete against 75% of y'all. Okay, that fixes my average. Yeah. Right? It's better for my kids because I know they're not going to quit. Yeah. So, yeah, that bothers me. Like, it means it might not be easy. It might be hard, right? You know, might be like us, right? Might be living in a fifth wheel for a couple of years, right? Till you got all that money together and buying a house, and you know, you never know. But if you're not willing to try and be uncomfortable and work, yeah, you're right. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. You did the same thing. You sacrificed. You were uncomfortable. You worked hard, and now look at what you got. That's how you get that.
Yes.
Because I've been to your house. That's just nice as hell, dude.
Thank you. Thank you.
But no one gave that to you.
No.
No one said, here you go.
Yeah.
You did that. And your wife, right?
Yeah. Mostly her. She does all that stuff, all the heavy lifting behind the scenes, right? The stuff but that enables you to go out and do that. Right?
Yeah.
For years, we lived that life. We lived on that, you know, that one military income kind of stuff, right? But she was home with them doing all that stuff that made all those other things possible, so I could go do that, right? So that's the same thing today, right? The way it's structured. So yeah, if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're not willing to work a little bit, what are you gonna get? What are you gonna have?
Jack shit.
Right? You're definitely not gonna have any of the stuff you dream about.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it's some doodads, but even then you're like, all right, maybe I got some nice shirts or something, but okay. Like,
and I really want to get to this video right here, the next one.
We're almost there, are we?
Yeah, we did good.
Okay, yeah, we're not bad. Okay.
But that's my favorite video, and there's actually no words in it. It's just like my definition of the American dream. It is.
There's some eagles and flags and stuff in this.
No, that would be great.
A couple belt feds.
that would also be fucking amazing. Okay. But no, it's like so much simpler than that. And I think pictures 1,000 words. That's kind of the way I see this. But honestly, I just want to say this, and maybe you can point out where I'm wrong. But this is what I truly believe. And when my kids ask me, like they're a little too young now, but when they get to that point, and they're like, "How do I do that?" Like I don't know how. I don't have it now, but I want it. How do I do that?
Right.
Because there's like no one comes along and be like, look, just do this, and then boom, you made it. Because that doesn't exist, and everyone's path is different. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone's abilities are different. Like everything's different for everybody. So it's the individual's pursuit of happiness, right? The chase of liberty. So I think the way I break it down for myself is figure out what you want and how to get it, and that's it. So if I want to be an engineer, I can talk to an engineer, I can Google it, I can look at this school and that school and their programs and how much it costs, and if I got this job, then how much can I save up in this amount of time? Can I get this scholarship? Can I, whatever, if I want to be an engineer. But if I want to be a nurse, right? Or if I want to, whatever I want to do, I just figure out what I want what I truly want. And I was like, well, I want to be rich. Fuck you. How do you...
What does that mean?
Figure out what you want.
Yeah.
And then how do you and if you don't know how to get there, and if it's not simple as just Googling it and getting a manual for it, go talk to somebody. Figure out what you want, how to get there, do it. Done. And don't make mistakes along the way. Now I'm throwing shit on top. But how about don't have babies out of wedlock? Get married. Actually, like you said, get up in the morning and go to work. Do the things that are going to benefit you and stop worrying about all the reasons why you can't.
There are some moral and ethical ways in which to govern your life that are also supported by statistics that show that you have a greater chances for success. And some of the ones you mentioned are, if you don't have children out of wedlock, right? 90% of either the joy or the misery in your life can singly be determined by the person you partner with.
Absolutely, man.
Right? That can be 90% of the joy and the wonders of your life, or 90% of perpetual pain and discomfort.
Absolutely.
Highly selective, right? But we have people that are more selective about the type of food they eat than the type of partner they have, right? I mean, it even talks about not to get off on it and what about the book or whatever, but it even talks about in the good old book, it says very specifically how you choose a partner, right? Choose a partner, somebody that you'd be willing to go to war with, right? That's the type of partner you choose to go there, right? Somebody
that's so real, man.
That would fight with me, right?
Absolutely.
And like I have that. That's what everybody's shooting for, right? But somebody that you would go to war with. And you're right. If you can do those things, you're already setting yourself up for like, okay, I can do now some of the hard stuff, right? Because my life's at peace. I have this happiness. I built these people that are around me that support me. I can try all this other hard stuff. That's a thing. Like you're 100% correct. That is, if you start to do just some of those basic things of not making the wrong choices there, you're already ahead of a lot of your competition.
Man, I never really brought in the significant other aspect of it. I'm glad you did, and that's so true in my life. I met my wife when I was 25. I met her as an adult. We went to school together in junior high, and then we reconnected when I was 25. In my life, going from whenever I graduated high school all the way up to the point where I met her, I struggled, right? I don't have any assets to fall back on. I didn't have a life. I was a child, and then all of a sudden now I'm an adult, figure it out kind of deal. And that's kind of the way it should be, You build your life on your own. But once I met her, everything freaking changed, man. It's like she was my good luck charm. But basically it gave me perspective, and I had somebody to bounce ideas off of and moral judgments, and I wasn't just wilding out, being a young, dumb, full of cum kind of kid out there, Because I mean, even if you're in your young 20s, and they say your brain don't even fully develop till you're 25. And I kind of believe it.
44, I'm close somewhere. I'm working on it.
Anyway, you're right. Find the right person, not a person. Find the right person.
Yeah.
And how to find that and who that right person is, that's different for everybody.
I think that's part of the pursuit of happiness.
Absolutely.
That's part of it. That's an integral part of that.
Yeah. That's absolutely. Right. All right, let's get to the good one.
All right.
I want to know what this does for you.
Okay.
America, America, make God thy gold refine.
Right there, Dad. She got a baby. She's not in fancy clothes. She got a Chevy in the parking lot. She's obviously in a neighborhood. She's living her American dream.
Yeah, I think the only bad choice she made in her life was a Chevy. I mean,
I can agree with you.
Yeah, to each their own, right?
But I mean, that's it. And I love this video. She didn't say anything. She's not giving you advice. She's not telling you what to do. She's not telling you how you're oppressed. She's not telling you how you fucked up. She's living her American dream. And man, dude, I believe in it.
That generation has the next part of that dream is to make sure that we're improving, right? You want to, I mean, we're kind of here to make another generation of good people, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the only, I'm probably never going to write a book that's going to be read 100 years from now, right? Probably never going to have a monument. I'm never going to have a library or a presidential, that's not going to happen, right? But you leave a legacy of children, right? And learning and assets and, the things that they need to build a better life. That is the point, right? The guy in the whatever video we watched, the first or the second, the 2.1 kid average stuff or whatever. I disagree. I think that is part of the dream.
Yeah.
That if you want to make the next better generation, that's going to make us, I don't know, newer rockets, right? Or better roads or better food or whatever they're going to invent.
We don't even know what they're going to come up with.
Yeah, we don't even know what they're going to invent at this point, right? But if you want to give them the opportunity to do that, you got to make those people.
Yep.
And you got to make them in the best environment possible.
And I guarantee you that is one lucky little girl right there, because I don't know this lady, but clearly, like, you can see that she cherishes that child, and she's proud of the life that she has built. And that's it. That's her American dream. She's living it, and she is going to be the reason that this little baby girl, succeeds and continues that on, because whatever she believes, she's going to pass that on, and that's all positivity. It's all love. It's all positive future.
Yeah, and mom's not preaching, I'm victimized because I'm a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nature, that's not a thing, right? I'm being oppressed, right? Your father and I brought you into this world, right? This is how we share our lives and resources, and depending on whatever values they teach the kid, yes, they're starting off to like, this is a wonderful, it is by the grace of God that you were born in America.
Absolutely. They were thankful. That's what this is about. They're thankful. It panned from this beautiful mother and child to that American flag.
Right. Thank you.
That's exactly it.
Right.
That's what this said.
Because this weekend is 1.2 million Americans in total that have died for that flag.
Died for those two right there.
Yeah, that didn't get the opportunity to finish that didn't come home.
And if you could ask them, I bet they'd be damn proud to see shit like this, not all that other trash.
Right.
That's all. They're on
that would make it worth it.
Yep.
Right. The video would make it worth it. So yeah, can't be perfect, but it's fine if she likes Chevy guys. I get it. Some people like more feminine people. I drove a bunch of Chevys, right? I can hate on them. I've had some Chevy ownerships.
Yep. I think we've seen enough of the videos, but I do like having the videos because they're kind of engaging, and you get to listen and watch these other point of views, and then we can bounce our ideas off of them and each other. So it definitely helps for making the show. But I don't know, man. Do you got anything else on this? You want to wrap it up?
I think the biggest thing that was the most fun about it is probably just be excited. I originally, before we got here, I was like, we're going to talk about, one of the things that I think that we do wrong from generations is we always teach our kids the fundamentals, right? Teaching the boys, this is how you get dressed, this is how you eat. We start at the basics, right? This walk, talk, all that other stuff. We teach them the things that they need to know to kind of get by. But we also don't do a very good job of teaching them things that may present themselves in the future, right? Our previous generation said, well, this is what your pawpaw did for success. This is what I did for success. So you should do the same thing. I think we're living in a current time right now that is changing enough and fast enough that we need to prepare them for not what we're currently doing, but what I think will be the case, right? Here's where I think you're going to be in the next 20 years. You might want to think about these career options. Here's where I think things are going. Instead of, work for my daddy, right? Case in point, right? If your grandpa and your dad installed engines at the Detroit auto plant, building trucks that built America, they did that for 30, 40 years, right? You couldn't do that. It doesn't exist anymore. All of those industries are going to morph and change, and I think we live in a time where they're going to change faster than they did before.
Yeah.
Making them adaptable for what's happening is we need to prepare them, well, that's just the way it is, and if you do it this way, it'll be the recipe for success. That's why these millennials are running into walls. You're right. A home costs way more than it did before. But as you pointed out before, figure out how to afford a home, not quit, right? It's like, I can't buy that. How can I buy that? That's the difference between a winner and a loser, right? How can I get that? I want it. That's what winners do. Losers are like, I can't have that, right?
It's a corrupt system, man.
Yeah, exactly, right? There's all kinds of reasons I'm, put down. But in preparing the children in I think the 21st century, and at least what I try and do is give some hypothetical guidance on consider this because this is where market trends are going. This is what corporate trends are. Be aware of that. I'm not saying that you have to change your route. I'm just saying be aware that, well, in our lifetime, we're going to see the cashiers go away, right? We're going to see, a lot of those things change. So I think that the American dream is still alive and well. I think it's better than absolutely it ever used to be because our luxuries and quality of life seems to only increase even with all the other problems, right? The next generation just needs to be highly adaptable.
Yep.
And if they're adaptable and work at it, they're going to be, Dana White was quoted the other day as being like, hey, the next generation is so whiny about shit. If you're even half of a savage, you're going to be a millionaire. Right? And it's true. You can walk into rooms now and, if you're even half of aggressive personality or, want to get stuff done, want to win, you'll have no problems being successful. So I think it's not only alive. I think there's more opportunities than our grandpas had.
Absolutely.
When it comes to amassing wealth and quality of life, I think we're actually better off. And I could probably make that argument in another 4-hour show of numbers, but
yeah,
that's
actually a good point. Dude, thanks for coming. It's been awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was a great experience. I thought we made a great show here, a great episode.
I've never done this kind of stuff before, so it was fun.
Would you want to come back?
Absolutely. This was great. We have to pick a different drink, but yeah, we'll do something different.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do a frozen margarita Friday or something.
Maybe we should make you two. It looks like
maybe
you ran out.
two, yeah, right, yeah. That was good.
Yeah, whatever you want, man. We'll get it. We'll make it happen. We'll find another great topic because, dude, that was an amazing topic. American Dream. That sums up all the other crap that we talk about, kind of.
Yeah.
I like it
I chase it every day. So, yeah. Thanks. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, check out freedomweightlossclinic.com or freedomwlc.com and rebel-shirts.com. And we'll see you next time. So that's it.
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome.
I sweated through. You were that fun. I kind of sweated through your headphones a little.